people will probably still arrive. Welcome to this lunch meeting co-organized by OXFAM, Novib in the Netherlands, and KUNO. My name is Corinne Lamen. I am the coordinator of KUNO. I will say more about it in a moment. And this is the fourth and last of a series of lunch meetings that we have organized on the theme of On the Changing World Order and its implications for humanitarian action. And today we are focusing on priorities for meaningful local humanitarian leadership, a key topic, of course, in the current geopolitical shifts that are happening. So we're very pleased and honored to be co-hosting this with OXFAM and their partners in alignment with a program that OXFAM is coordinating on local humanitarian leadership that we will hear about more in a moment. Just a few words on KUNO for those of you that don't know it yet. I see some people that have attended all four of these sessions, so you're well familiar with the story by now. Very welcome. But KUNO is a knowledge network across the Dutch humanitarian field. And it is by and for the humanitarian field to deepen and share knowledge across the field to improve humanitarian action. So we host all sorts of gatherings, events, and also trainings to make sure that knowledge is available and used so that humanitarian action can be improved. So this is part indeed of a series of lunch meetings that we have been conducting leading up to a larger conference we're organizing for the humanitarian field in the Netherlands mid-June. And today we are very pleased to have three excellent speakers, one a bit shorter, two a bit longer, that are going to share with us these priorities indeed for meaningful local humanitarian leadership. We will hear first, I'm going to introduce all three speakers to you, and then after that, we're going to hear from each of them. We're going to start with Liz Harrison, who's a program manager of the Local Humanitarian Leadership Program at OXFAM Novib. She's going to tell us briefly about the program and how that sits within the partners that we're seeing here as well. Then we're going to hear from Pansy Tuntain, who's with the Local Intermediary Access Network in Myanmar. Pansy, good to have you here. And then after that, we're going to hear from Nuria Golo, who's the Executive Director of MWADO, a women's rights organization, and chair of the ASAL Humanitarian Network in Kenya. We had some connection issues with Nuria still. So we have our fingers crossed that everything... Oh, she's here. Okay, great. We have her on board. Welcome, Nuria. Right, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Liz. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Good to be here. I'm Liz Harrison. I'm the Senior Programme Manager at OXFAM. I just started a few weeks ago, but not new to the sector. And I'm here to set the scene a little bit for this really interesting discussion. So as we know, the global humanitarian system is facing an unprecedented funding crisis, while we're still continuing to grapple with aid reform efforts initiated almost a decade ago. The challenges are great, but the current context also presents an opportunity to accelerate progress on shifting resources and decision-making closer to crisis-affected people and to the local and national actors that support them. So as such, we need to ensure we're listening to voices of our partners and other local and national actors on their vision for a humanitarian system, which is not only cost-effective and efficient, but also diverse, inclusive and decolonised. So in collaboration with the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, good to see you here, Laura, OXFAM is working on a multi-year 7-country programme to build evidence and influence this transformation. It's called the Humanitarian System Transformation Through Local Humanitarian Leadership Programme, and we'd love to keep you updated on it as we go. Last month, we gathered together OXFAM colleagues working on partnerships and local humanitarian leadership with local and national partners from around the globe. And it was really interesting to hear thoughts on the role of INGOs in the new reality of a shrinking global aid budget. There was consensus on some ideas, equitable partnerships, quality funding, local leadership, but there were differences also depending on the context. And these nuances are really important to take into account to ensure we're able to reach people affected by crisis in the most effective way possible. So, referring nicely back to the World Humanitarian slogan, as local as possible, as international as necessary, And with that said, we're really excited to hear from Pansy and Nuria today. They're from Kenya and Myanmar, two of our program countries under this program that we're working on together. And we are really looking forward to hearing your ideas, your questions afterwards. So with no further ado, handing over to Pansy.
Thank you, Liz. Hello, everybody. Mingalaba. I am very happy to be participating in this very important session and trying to share some of our experiences from Myanmar. Here, first of all, we are the local actors. Here, I'm representing the civil society in Myanmar. And we are very, very much excited to hear about the humanitarian reset. We believe, first slide, please. Liz, thanks. Can you have the first slide, Liz? Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, thank you. So here we are very happy that there is this initiative to reset humanitarian aid programming. And we do, as civil society, welcome these current initiatives to reset the system as well as the architecture that aims to shift power and promote equal partnership and increased flexible funding to local actors, while it is important to ensure accountability and transparency. And as many of you know, and as have been proven, the local actors actually have better understanding of local context, as well as are able to navigate through different and complex environment, having local language, local wisdom, local knowledge, and most importantly, being trusted by the community members, as well as having easier access to affected communities, whereas access is limited to many international actors, as it is a big challenge in our country, which is Myanmar. So here it is really very much a welcome opportunity to share Myanmar experiences in navigating this complex operational space, because as you all know, we are currently faced with this polycrisis where we have this devastating natural disaster, we have protracted armed conflict due to the military coup in 2021, and that resulted in a people's revolution that has been ongoing for the last 4 years. To navigate this restrictive civic space where international humanitarian actors have limited access and leaving many of these responses to local actors. Thereby, in 2022, early 2022, the national local leaders, CSO leaders, have formed what we call the Local Intermediary Actors Network. And that is composed of 14 leading NGOs. And we have been collectively advocating to promote localization initiatives in Myanmar. This is done so because in this complex environment, local actors are actually the ones really leading the humanitarian action on the ground. Therefore, this is the right time for us to push for localization in the country. And this initiative also involves having regular coordination and networking with local NGOs, local CSOs, and also bringing collective voices to international actors, such as the UN, the INGO, the donors, and other stakeholders. And we continue to advocate for increased recognition as well as engagement with local actors. The LIA today is actually recognized regionally and globally, and including the Grand Bargain Secretariat. We also would like to mention here the role of LIA in having this close MOU, a close sort of the association with NEAR Network, which is a regional network that also works closely with LIA, and we have what we call the Asia Pacific Localization Lab, where 18 participating countries are having different kind of initiatives to promote localization in their respective countries. And therefore, Myanmar is one of those countries. And this allows us to engage globally, regionally, as well as globally. Next slide, please. So here, when we're talking about humanitarian reset, actually, the reset, it must be the local. Hello, is it a second
Yulia
slide?
is trying to change
Oh,
the slide, but there's a technical hiccup. But please continue. Yeah.
All right. So here we're now would like to share some of the messages that have come forward from our regular coordination and consultations with our local CSOs and local communities. And on the part of the humanitarian reset, the messages that we want to bring forward include a true reset. It must lead to a more fundamental changes to a long-standing humanitarian power structures that actually have contributed to exclusion, inefficiency, and lack of accountability to crisis-affected people. It should also be inclusive and it should promote local leadership while emphasizing on local context and build around the needs of local communities. Also, priority for reset should focus on quality and multi-year flexible funding, as well as local-led initiatives. Also, we call for the commitment to implement the Grand Bargain Caucus on intermediaries, which the principles are embedded in the commitments and contains prioritized actions to strengthen the equitable and equal partnership with the local leaders. Next slide, please. We also have some messages in terms of sharing our experience on local-based pool fund. Our local actors would like to stress that this country-based pool fund, it is really, it is a good strategy, to be frank, but local and national actors should be the primary recipients of this country-based pool fund. Also, locally led and locally managed pool fund, it is a good practice and it should be promoted. Increase engagement with local intermediaries with simplified and harmonized due diligence requirements should be promoted. Coordination platforms need to be led or co-led with local actors so that civil society can be sustained. In the absence of the international actors, so civil society, local civil societies can continue to work on responding to humanitarian needs in their respective countries. We also need to promote longer-term community resilience program and promote social cohesion efforts. Next slide, please. And here, there are also some other relevant messages that the local actors would like to bring forward. And this includes, regarding self-funding, it should be open to local NGOs. Currently in Myanmar, it is not. It's only for the UN and INGOs. Therefore, we are making a plea here that local NGOs should also have access to this kind of funding opportunity. Also, resources should support community-led approaches and not really top-down accountability frameworks, which are considered unsustainable at the country level. Accountability to affected population. This initiative that is currently led by the large agencies should be deprioritized. This would mean building partnership with local organizations, promoting joint accountability with transparent, inclusive, as well as context-specific approaches, and to be based on regular consultation with local partners and local communities. Transformation of aid system should not be imposed from above. It must be shaped and it must be led by those closest to the challenges. And lastly, international agencies should move from being implementers to enablers of local organizations and focus on technical backstopping. This is all that I need to share today, and thank you all for your attention. Over to you, Liz.
Thank you so much, Pansy, for that very clear and clear proposal with also a very clear path ahead. I think that's very helpful for us to take on in the conversation. Thank you very much for sharing that. Right, Nuria, do we have you nearby?
Yes.
There you are. Welcome. Good to have you on board. Are you able to turn on your camera? Yeah, great.
Yes.
To see you. Right, then welcome. Good to have you on board, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope you are hearing me well.
Yes.
Are you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. My name is Nuria Golo. I'm the ED or Executive Director of a women-led organization, which is called Marsabit Women Advocacy and Development Organization, MWADO. The acronym is MWADO. And I'm the chair of ASAL Humanitarian Network. I'm here to talk about localization. And first and foremost, my entry point is why localization matters. Why does localization matter? Some points here. Humanitarian systems remain internationalized, despite commitments like the Grand Bargain and Charter for Change. So, and also local actors are often fast responders, understand the context best, and are key to sustainability and trust. And also the ASAL means arid and semi-arid regions of Kenya. The ASAL area in Kenya are uniquely vulnerable due to climate shocks, conflict, and chronic underdevelopment, making local partnership essential for effective response and resilience building. About ASAL Humanitarian Network, it's called AHN. The acronym is AHN. ASAL Humanitarian Network is a locally led platform of over 30 local NGOs and national organizations. And we are soon going to be 45 because we have a space for additional 15 organizations joining from the affected counties by disaster, conflict, and other humanitarian situations. And it was formed to strengthen, amplify voice locally led actions and effective aid system using harmonized humanitarian models, capacity sharing among members, deployment of rapid response team, 8 steps of cash and voucher assistance, compliant and feedback response mechanism, and policy influence across the ASAL region. ASAL Humanitarian Network effectively participates in the coordination forums like subnational forums, which is the County Steering Group, Cash Technical Working Group, West Code, and Gender Technical Working Group, working closely with government and local communities. It's an active contributor to national and regional humanitarian coordination, including Kenya Humanitarian Country Team Light, Kenya Charter for Change Working Group, Kenya Humanitarian Partnership Team, and humanitarian hubs, Garissa, Isiolo, and North Rift. How AHN works is through, I'm going to give you key mechanisms through which ASAL Humanitarian works. One is localization and partnership readiness. This promotes local leadership through due diligence and capacity sharing approaches like capacity readiness tool, partnership empowerment assessment. It also ensures local actors meet and shape standards for partnership with UN, INGOs, donors, and private sector. Another mechanism is evidence-based advocacy and coordination. This ensures we build on community driven evidence from the counties we work in, and we drive advocacy on climate justice, overhead cost, funding equity, pushing for partnership with UN and INGOs rather than them implementing. And we push for alert-based system, early warning and triggers and thresholds. SOPs for joint action by stakeholders at disaster hotspots for the government to trigger allocation of disaster contingency and disaster fund available at county levels. The third mechanism is through multi-stakeholder engagement. We facilitate alert for disaster action with INGOs and UN and peers, work with humanitarian hubs and platform for early warning, disaster preparedness, and anticipatory action. We also engage with government, UN agencies, INGOs, and community leaders, youth, and media. Number 4, another mechanism is sustainability and resilience. We prioritize long-term resilience through climate financing, local risk reduction system, SCLR, survivor community-led response, and social protection linkages, and also collaborate with initiatives like Kenya Devolved Climate Finance Mechanism. Within the ASAL Humanitarian Network, we have what we call Women Caucus. Out of the 30 members of the AHN, we have 10 organizations which are women-led. As much as we look at the broader AHN aspect, we also make sure we consider a Women Caucus priority. And AHN Women Caucus is a transformative initiative within AHN, amplifying women leadership in humanitarian action across the ASAL counties. Established to strengthen gender-responsive and inclusive humanitarian decision-making by elevating the voices of women-led and women-serving organizations. It operates as a platform for influence, coordination, mutual support among women leaders across Turkana, Tana River, Garissa, Marsabit, and other counties of Kenya. Why key functions and achievement of the caucus? We say we influence county and national policy spaces by contributing to gender-sensitive programming and planning, provide a safe space for mentorship, leadership, and solidarity, particularly for women facing exclusion in formal humanitarian coordination. We also engage in joint advocacy on issues such as protection of women and girls during crisis, equitable access to resources and funding for women-led organizations, and mainstreaming gender in anticipatory action and disaster preparedness. What are the strategic contributions we have made so far? We co-created gender and protection policy paper for ASAL counties grounded in the field level evidence-based community insights. We have collaborated with the Kenya Humanitarian Partnership Team and Gender-Based Violence Sub-Working Group to embed local women perspective. We also promote intergenerational leadership and decentralized participation in county-led decision-making and forums. What are our priorities? I'm almost finishing. What are we asking for, or what is our ask? Flexible, long-term, and predictable financing for local actors, including overhead and indirect costs. The evolution of power and decision-making to local respondents, because they are the first-line responders and not just participation. Protection and political spaces for local organizations to operate and influence. Localization framework and national reference group to share and monitor localization progress. Influence formation of a Kenya national reference group. The AHN Women Caucus is a living example of localization in practice, not only shifting power to local actors, but ensuring women are at the center of the shift, and urges donors and partners to adopt feminism funding approaches that are flexible, core-based, and long-term, and also champions a localized gender lens in humanitarian framework, not just gender mainstreaming in its name. Finally, our call to action: donors and INGOs must shift from projecting to strategic partnership, ensure joint decision-making, not just consultation, support local platforms like AHN that are rooted in the community and driving systemic change, invest in a co-creation spaces and humanitarian
Nuria, you've broken off a bit.
mechanism Can you hear me?
Yeah, you are back now. Yes, we lost. You were broken off a bit.
Yeah.
So maybe you just want to go back
the
one
last
step.
one is call.
Yeah.
Okay, call to action maybe. My last slide. Donors and NGOs may shift from projection to strategic partnership, ensure joint decision making, not just consultation, support local platforms like AHN that are rooted in the communities and driving systemic change. Invest in co-creation, spaces, and humanitarian innovation led by the locals. And lastly, local-led pool funds mechanism to ensure a steady and dedicated flow of funding to local actors.
Thank you so much, Nuria. Yeah, we were able to hear you loud and clear in the end, and before also, by the way. No, very good to hear the both of you really speak to your experiences, but also your proposals coming from the specific context that you are part of, with really an emphasis on forums, networks, caucus. Yeah, these platforms really to collaborate. An emphasis on flexible funding, hearing from you both. Indeed, handing over power and decision making positions. And the questions of accountability. To whom should humanitarian action be accountable? Very clear proposition. So thank you very much, Pansy and Nuria, for your contributions. Then I would like to open the floor now for questions. You can pose your questions either in the chat or you can raise your hand. Either case, we would invite you, if you are willing and able, to say your question out loud. You can perhaps introduce yourself also and say to whom of the speakers you are directing your question. We will gather a couple of questions before we hand them back over to you, Pansy and Nuria, just so you know that it's not immediately back to you. Laura, would you like to go first, indeed?
Yes, thank you so much. So my name is Laura Brinks from the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and it was wonderful to hear and have my lunch with you, which I did have. I hope that was okay. And it's always wonderful to hear the initiatives and the great ideas and thoughts. And thank you so much for sharing that. I had one question to Pansy. You mentioned that you want to increase the engagement with local intermediaries with simplified and harmonized due diligence requirements. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that. What do you mean by local intermediaries? Is that like ASAL in Kenya, something like that? Or did you have something else in mind? And how do you propose simplified, harmonized due diligence requirements? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura. Very clear question indeed. I see a question by Asma Asma Ali in the chat. Would you mind unmuting yourself and posing the question to Nuria out loud if you're able to?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Corinne. Yeah, my question is to Nuria, and it's just to understand how and who funded the great research work and the publications that were mentioned, and all the activities around the research and publication that are done within the ASAL.
Would you mind introducing yourself, Asma?
Sorry, yeah, I'm Asma Ali. I'm a medical doctor freelancer on mostly global health work.
Thank you. Thanks for the question and thanks for joining. All right, any other questions to Pansy and Nuria? Again, you can raise your hand or post them in the chat. Otherwise, we move ahead with answering the questions that we... Oh, wait, before I move on. Yeah, I see Raman Kumar. Please come in.
Just a quick question to Nuria. My name is Raman. I'm the LHL influencing lead based in Kenya with OXFAM. And I am keen to understand the role the Women's Caucus of AHN has played or would like to play in advocacy and influencing at the national level? What have been their experience in changing or transforming the humanitarian system in Kenya as the Women's Caucus, and what had been their key successes or challenges on that?
Thanks, Aman. Also a clear question indeed, and it's nice. I was also curious myself to hear more about the Women's Caucus, so I'm glad that you're asking. Any other questions? I'm just opening up a little bit longer. Younes, Hassan, feel free to come in. I see your question in the chat.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I don't know if you can see me.
We cannot see you, but we can hear you.
I'm trying to open my camera. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, this is Yunus Hassan from Stichting Lachling. I'm based in Iraq. My question is about quality funding. I hear that the speakers multiple times emphasize on the quality funding. So I wondered how they outlook from the perspective of a local national actor, how they outlook this quality funding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Younes. Is it to both speakers?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I see another question in the chat from Louise Roland Gosselen. Would you like to?
Yes, I'm trying to unmute. Please tell me if you cannot hear because I'm in a noisy place. But I was really interested. So I am the Humanitarian Affairs Coordinator, Advocacy Coordinator for Doctors Without Borders, MSF, based in Nairobi. And I was interested in a humanitarian context, in conflict contexts, how we can address and move past concerns related to risk around independence and neutrality of local actors. It's often something that we hear. We try and work with local organizations in Sudan in many conflict contexts, but this is often something that we hear concerns around independence, neutrality. So I'd be interested to hear about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was loud and clear as well. All right. I suggest that we now hand it over because we have a whole bunch of questions that we hand it back over first to Pansy and then to Nuria to respond. Pansy, would you like to come in first? You're muted, Pansy. Are you able to unmute yourself?
Yeah, sorry, I had difficulty unmuting. Okay. First of all, thank you very much for very, very good questions. Yeah, in Myanmar situation, talking about our context, we mentioned about working with local intermediaries because traditionally many international donors and international actors tend to fund only international intermediaries and not local intermediaries. So as I mentioned in my presentation, we got together 14 leading local intermediary organizations and form ourselves as local intermediary actors network because we want to advocate for the local actors to be recognized as having ability and capacity to serve as intermediaries. So therefore, we are now, initially 2 years ago, we got ourselves together and formed this network. We have come a long way. We have already reached, made ourselves like better known at regional and international level. And our ultimate goal is to serve as a local pool fund. And when we talk about local pool fund, this is only to manage 25% of humanitarian funding to go directly to the local actors. We do not want to like worry about the 75% that can go to the international. So what we are trying to do here is to really implement the localization commitments at the country level. So this is what we are trying to do as a local network. And as for the simplified due diligence, specifically in Myanmar context, it's very, very difficult to really work with a lot of requirements, due diligence requirements, compliance requirements, such as having hard copies of documentation, because our country is now, we are under the protracted armed conflict, and civil society being, we have been cracked down, and it's very difficult for us to work openly. So having hard documentation in our hand brings a risk to our local actors. And this is just one example. There are many, many other risky factors that are required as due diligence by many donors. Okay, so this was in order to cope with that. In Myanmar Humanitarian Country Team has led in developing what we call flexibility guidelines. This is to listen to the difficulties, challenges of the local actors in implementing programs at the ground level, and what can be done in order to have less risk for them. And we are in the final stage of developing this flexibility guidelines, and we will implement it in Myanmar. And if it is successful, I think we can also share with other actors in other countries. So this is what I'd like to respond to. As for the quality funding, we would like to, focus on like core funding for the local CSOs, because oftentimes the international intermediaries would give us certain projects. Mainly they are short-term, 6 months, 8 months, things like that, and nothing longer than that, nor multi-year. What we are seeking is multi-year programming that can also contain core funding as well as the indirect cost recovery. These are not provided to the local actors. Therefore, once the programs or projects stop, that is the end of the civil society existence. So this is what we are now pushing for. And I hope I've answered your questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Pansy, for elaborating on really most of the questions. That's very helpful. Nuria, over to you. And we have around 5 minutes left. So you have the time to respond to a range of the questions.
Yes, thank you very much. Question number 1 was about where we get funding for ASAL to do research. We get the funding through a platform which is manned by a convener. As much as we are organizations working in the ASAL and the arid and semi-arid areas in different counties, 10 counties, we have a coordinator, a convener who works at the national level. And in any funding support we get, we have a component of research where it is floated to the national media, the national platforms, so that people apply and do the research with payment through the convener's office, but with the direction of the board members. So it's some little funding which we always secure to keep apart for any upcoming event, upcoming research, which is, of course, manned by the board of directors of the ASAL Humanitarian Network, of which I am the chair. And then the other question was from Kumar. He asked me to share successes and challenges. As I mentioned earlier, the successes or achievements we have gotten is we have influenced county and national policy spaces by contributing to gender-sensitive programming and planning. In most of our counties, we have gender technical working group, which we are really driving, and that this has made us influence the different spaces, policy spaces, both at county level and national level. The other success is that we have provided a safe space for mentorship, leadership building, and solidarity. As much as we work in different counties, we work in solidarity. Our voice is united, a united voice, and that's what we have always envisaged to look upon, a voice from the women caucus to influence advocacy and all other issues. We have protection of women and girls during crisis, equitable access to resources and funding for women-led organizations, and mainstreaming gender, anticipatory action, and disaster preparedness. We have had a lot of capacity sharing within ourselves. As much as we are women caucus, we come from different counties, and we have strengths within us, which we share. Capacity sharing, like we have had a common gender survey, which is ongoing right now. We also have been realized to be potential in decision making in our own counties. CSG, any forum, humanitarian, we are on top of it because our work is practical, and as being actors on the ground, we are being recognized and being appreciated by even the leadership. We have also influence in coordination of decision making. We have coordination mechanisms, county caucus, all the counties have their own caucus. And to your surprise, most of these women are leaders in their own different counties. So those are the successes. The challenges, as we have already said, we have one-off funding, like my sister Pansy has said, maybe 6 months, maybe 4 months, which is not adequate. Resources are not enough. We have one-off funding. We want one-off funding where we can have flexible funding which we can utilize. Another challenge is untimely disasters. Where I come from, Marsabit County, Kumar can attest to it that one disaster comes after the other. We talk of flooding today, we talk of drought tomorrow. The day after tomorrow, there's conflict. So it's a cycle of, many things coming up together. So while you're addressing one, another one crops up. You address the second one, another one crops up. So it's a challenge moving around and also getting even the funding for each and every disaster which takes place. Thank you.
Thank you so much, both Pansy and Nuria, and you're amazing timekeepers. I didn't even get nervous at some point. This also means that we're going to have to round off now, even though I think that we would have liked to really continue these conversations, because I think that your examples and your experiences really speak to to the larger goal that there is indeed for more meaningful local humanitarian leadership. So just we put our hands together for Pansy and Nuria for your excellent contributions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And please stay around for a moment still. And to everyone else, thanks so much for participating in this fourth session of the lunch meetings. Please check KUNO's website to see for other events that perhaps are relevant to you, and also be very welcome to reach out to us if you would like to put issues on our event agenda as well. We are a platform that exists by the agenda setting of our members and other humanitarian organizations. So please reach out to us. Thanks again for joining, everyone. It was really good to see so many of you show up for this very important topic.